Welcome to Fed Renaissance. If you're a former federal employee trying to figure out what's next, start a new business, or looking to remake yourself, you're in the right place. There's no need to walk this road alone. So many former feds have already generated their own success, so why not learn from the paths they've already traveled? I'm your host and federal government alum, Brandon Cory. Fed Renaissance exists to help make you successful and to support your journey of personal and professional self-discovery. Former feds are a formidable force. Come join the movement. Hey, Jen, how are you? Welcome to the Fed Renaissance podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's so good to have you here. Hey, folks, I'm Brandon Cory, the host of the Fed Renaissance podcast. We're delighted you're here. I am here with Jennifer Longmeyer-Wood, who is the owner of the Casual Pint in Dunn Loring. For those of you not in the DC area, Jen, actually, rather than me explain it, Dunn Loring,
Yeah.
where is that?
It's a metro stop in Vienna, but it's easier to tell people Dunn Loring because it's the metro stop. And Vienna is, there's like a town of Vienna and there's like Vienna. And so it's easier for people to find us if I point them toward the Dunn Loring metro. And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay, we know right where you are. And so
That makes sense.
Vienna, good luck finding me.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're not in the DC area, you're on vacation somewhere. Yeah. Is it close enough to DC that people are like, "Hey, where are you from? Where do you live?" Do you say DC or do you say Virginia?
I still say DC. My husband will say he'll be like Northern Virginia, and I was like, nobody knows what that is. Whereas
Yeah.
DC, and then I'm like, but we live 20 minutes, 15 minutes outside of DC.
I feel like if you're on a metro stop, it counts. I'm still Northern Virginia-ish, but there's no metro stop near here. So, I'm not sure.
I'm originally from Chicago. When people ask everyone in Chicago says Chicago, even though it's Chicago land, it's really and they look at you and you're like, okay, I'm really from the suburbs, but nobody's going to know where Palatine, Illinois or Schaumburg is. So I just say Chicago and they're like, oh,
right.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. I'm from Dallas, and see, that's the thing.
Right.
I was truly born in Dallas, and then people from the area would be like, nobody really lives in Dallas, so we're really, and I grew up in a suburb too, it's just what it is.
But I did go to school in Chicago, so I feel I do some bona fides there, where I'm like,
okay. All right, well that counts. That definitely counts. Well, tell us who you are, right? Fed Renaissance is focused on former feds, venturing out into the private sector in many cases. So maybe just tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are, what you were doing in the federal government, all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So probably a fair amount of people, for better or worse, I spent most of my 20s in school between undergrad and then grad school. I thought I'd go get a PhD and teach. And after my master's degree, decide to go on to law school. So I would take a gap year in between all of my degrees. But finally, by the age of 29, 30, I was finally done with school, had accumulated a bunch of degrees and a lot of debt. I had gone.
That's an incentive to get a job.
Right. Yeah. It's incentive, especially when your parents are like, get out. So I had come to DC for grad school, went to law school up in New York, and then came back to DC. And I think a lot of people who come to DC thought, I'll check my box, I'll do my 2 or 3 years, I'll get a job on the Hill, or I'll go work for some think tank or go do something, and then, leave. And that was 25 years ago and just never left. I started off working at a lobbying firm. I was a baby lobbyist for a hot second, and then decided to actually use my law degree. My dad was in city government. He was a city manager most of his career. And so I'd always gravitated toward government. I was living in DC at the time, and I really wanted to work for DC government. And so after applying and waiting for many months, I got a job in the at that time office of the Corporation Counsel, which
Mm.
evolved into the Office of the Attorney General. Anyone from a big city knows you have like an Office of Corporation Counsel that represents the city. Like we had that in New York City. And so I went in there and I did procurement work and litigated. And so I represented the DC government when people had claims against the DC government, which there were many. So I got
Hmm.
a lot of experience right off
I
the
bet.
bat. And you really see in government just the number of really amazing people who are there and really working, because I want to be doing good for the people, and just amazing people who really know their stuff.
Mm.
After a number of years there, a friend of mine, also in DC, I took a little side route and went into child support because
Oh, wow.
my boss at the time was asked to go be like the acting director of child support. They had
Okay.
a bunch
Is
of,
that like Child Protective Services?
no, this is actual like
Mm.
child support, like,
Okay.
you
Like
know,
alimony stuff?
kind of like where
Okay.
the you have a kid, one has custody of the kid, the other doesn't, and yeah, so
Gotcha. Okay.
paying child support.
Yeah, 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 right.
And he went over there to be an acting interim director. They had a bunch of contract issues, so he kind of reached back and was like, "Do you want to come over here with me?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about child support," and he was like, "I need you to do this contract work. We need to clean up some contracts."
Yeah.
That evolved into doing some policy work there and then eventually being over the operations section there.
Okay.
So handling all the intake, all the enforcement actions, like it was like 120 people, 6 divisions. So it was, again, like throw
That's
you in
like
the
plenty
deep
of job
end.
security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like throw you in the deep
Wow.
end of the pool,
I
pretty sure you
bet.
can swim.
Right.
Um, I jumped into the federal government. A good friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey," she was working at ICE. She had been legacy customs, had gone to the private sector, and then came back. And she said, "They're looking for an attorney who knows government contracts." And I was like, "Oh, I know someone who does that." Um, I
Were you referring to yourself?
no, I was like, okay, being nice. I went and like interviewed and they offered me a job. I loved working for DC government. I didn't want to leave. I talked with a couple of folks there. One of them had worked for the federal government for like 30 years. And when he retired, he came to DC and he just looked at me and he's like, "Take the job." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "You're going to have more opportunity. You'll get more money, but it's just the federal government versus like DC government." He was like, "You're going to have more opportunity."
Broaden your
And
horizons a
so,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I left and was at ICE for about 15 years doing,
Okay.
again, went over to do like procurement work. And at the
Okay.
time, there were only two. I was the second attorney there handling procurement. So there were
Okay.
two of us like doing, handling all the contract reviews. If there were any
Two.
protests,
You said two, as in
two,
like two
uno,
for all of
dos,
ICE.
for all of ICE. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And we had a
I would have.
boss, and he
Yeah.
handled all the fiscal law questions. So any fiscal law questions went to him, any contract questions went
Would it be
to.
safe to say you were a little overworked or had more work than you could handle?
There was a lot of work. There was also a lot of opportunity to streamline some things. And so that was great.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yes.
with the
Okay.
contract folks who, again, like, there were two of us, but there were only 45 people in the contract section. So
Yeah.
doing, all the paperwork, all the reviews, all the
Okay.
everything.
Right.
And
Right. Heavy lifting. Yeah.
yeah, so going to them and
Yeah.
saying, I think we could, like, how about we come up with some templates for
Right.
certain things we do,
What a
stuff
novel
we buy
idea.
every day.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
they were like, "Yes, like you're the attorney, you go tell the program." And I'm
You
like,
can
"Okay."
actually make it happen.
Yeah.
You have clout.
Yeah.
Yeah. That-
So being able to walk in as the attorney and say, I think there's a better way to do this. And then people are like,
Nice.
yeah, okay.
As a taxpayer, I thank you
You're,
already.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I
Wow.
did that. I had some
Okay.
opportunity to go on the enforcement side and do, be an advisor, attorney advisor on the enforcement side. Um, then a big jump to being a chief counsel out in Minneapolis for like 2.5 years.
Wow.
Then come back to headquarters and be a
So Minneapolis was still a federal gig, not a
yeah.
local Minneapolis gig.
No, that was a federal gig. So it
I,
was
I mean, I think legal. I think Minneapolis. Any overlap with the George Floyd era at all?
no, it was before that.
It was
Um,
before that. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
yeah.
Okay,
It was
yeah,
like
yeah.
2012 to 2014 when I was there.
Gotcha. Okay,
Um,
okay.
but yeah, so there's an immigration court out there, an immigration court in Omaha. And so there were 5 states, Minneapolis, Iowa, Nebraska, and both Dakotas. And then
Yes.
the primary focus was the attorneys going into immigration court, but then we also provided support to ERO and then
Right.
HSI.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I
so
gotta ask, with all this workload in the
yeah,
evenings, are you going out for beer by any chance?
yeah,
Just out, just curious. Don't know if there's a connection. We can get to that later, but
yeah,
I
there
don't know.
totally was a connection that,
Okay.
I joked with people, we left Virginia like wine people because my husband's from California. And then we got out to Minnesota and it was like, hey, man, they make really good beer out here.
Oh,
And
nice. Okay.
that and just a lot of farm to table stuff and just kind of the smaller cities and mid-sized cities that just very local, do great stuff. Just not not like this crushing overabundance of like national chains. Sure, they had national
Right.
chains, but a lot of it was some locally owned place that you were just like, this is amazing. Um,
Wow. Yeah. There's something refreshing about the local mom and pop.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that spoke to your heart somehow, I take it.
Yeah, it was like,
Okay.
this is really cool. And to have a place where it's real community,
Mm.
coming in the evenings, seeing the same, seeing folks.
Mhm.
There was one bar that we would frequent, a local place, craft beers. And
Mm.
my husband and I would go late on Sunday evenings, like after the kids were in bed. And we got to know the bartender that night, who would work Sundays, Frank. And when we moved back to DC, because my husband and I each took new positions back in DC. And so we moved back and then we went back to Minnesota maybe like 3 months later for something to see some friends. And so
Mhm.
we were like, oh, it's Sunday night. Like, let's go. And we went over and we walk in and Frank's like, where have you guys been? And we're like, Frank, the last time we were in here, we told you we were moving back, to Virginia. And he
Wow.
was like,
But and the gap between going back to see Frank was three, did you
it
say
was
three
like
years?
2, 3 months. It was like 2, 3
Oh,
months.
months. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
still just remembers
And he
y'all.
was like,
That's
where
so
were you
cool.
guys? Like every Sunday night, like I was looking for you. And we were like, sorry,
That
man.
is so cool. That is so, I've got to say, there is something about these local establishments that there is that community connection. And I was in Baltimore for 20 years commuting to DC, and there's this little this little wing and beer joint. And I had to go back to Baltimore. It was probably 6 months ago, and we've been in Virginia now for 3, 4 years. And I went back, and the cashier was like, "I haven't seen you in so
Yeah.
long. Where have you been?"
Yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
same. It was the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. Like it breaks your heart. And it's like, I missed that.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah,
walked
yeah.
out of there and I'm like, oh my God, Frank remembered us. Like, yeah,
Wow. Uh-huh.
And
That's so
so
cool.
yeah. Yeah. But anyway, like Minneapolis, back to DC, back at ICE, and then went back into the procurement world, being the chief of commercial and administrative law. So overseeing
Okay.
all the advice on procurement, reviewing contracts, fiscal law review. And for a hot second, I was acting deputy CFO
Wow.
when they were doing some rearranging the CFO's office.
So you're back from Minnesota. You're the chief of procurement administrative law
Yeah.
and dual hatted as the acting CFO? Or is
Yes.
that totally wow, that's not like a lot to do at all.
No,
Doesn't
the
sound
good
like.
thing was
Oh
I
my
had a really
goodness.
good team. So I was like, hey, I'm going to be over there for 6 months. I'm like two
Okay.
floors away. So if anything,
Okay.
if you need me, I'm 2 floors away. And they were
Okay.
like, we got it. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
see you in 6 months.
that's cool. It's awesome when you have a great team. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
So
very
it sounds like you
fortunate.
have an amazing gig, and so now you're safe to say C-suite. Uh, how long does this go on?
That went on maybe for like 2.5 years of kind
Okay.
of, doing when we were back, I guess almost three. Well,
Okay.
let me do math 1 second. Well, it was probably like almost, I take that back. It was closer to like 4.5, 5 years of kind of
Okay.
doing, those new jobs coming back. And then life happens and there's some
Mm-hmm.
opportunity and looking at things and going, I don't know, maybe this is if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? The opportunity of working with a friend to open the pint. Um,
Yeah. So I feel like there's something to unpack there. Say
yeah,
say more. If you're not going to do it now, what's that it? It sounds like there's something that had been I did not intend the
brewing,
pun.
punny.
I did not intend that. It sounds like there was something brewing inside of you. Can you tell us a little more about what that was?
So, this idea for this,
Yeah.
my business partner here is ironic, is my husband's best friend.
Okay.
And he had been overseas for a number of years working, came back, had a little nest egg, but didn't. He worked in IT. He did not really care to go back to doing IT, but wasn't sure what he wanted to do. He was looking at different franchises and found this one. So the
Hmm.
Casual Pint is
Okay.
actually a very small franchise based out of
Okay.
Knoxville, Tennessee. There's
Gotcha.
only
How
about,
many? Yeah, sorry, you're going there already.
yeah, like 15 or
Really?
16.
Okay. Okay.
Most are in Tennessee and like Ohio.
Okay.
There's 3 here in Virginia,
Mm.
um, 2 in Alabama,
Okay. Okay.
and 1 in Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and he came to us and he was like, hey, there's this thing, the Casual Pint, it's beer and, kind of upscale bar food.
Mm.
And it got my husband and I talking again, like, hey, do you remember the Pig and Fiddle and Frank? And I don't know, like, this sounds like fun.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How hard could it be to open
Right.
a place like
Wow.
this? Um,
So
yeah.
back in the Minnesota days, as you're sitting, what a great name, the Pick and Fiddle. Are you sitting
Mhm.
at the Pick and Fiddle in I picture you in like a back corner table being like, should we open something like this one of these days? Is that what's kind of going
There
on?
was some of that talk because we
Okay.
we thought, well, if Minneapolis is our final destination, like this isn't too bad,
Yeah.
life out
Yeah.
there. Um, and it was just a good place and our kids loved it. And like
Okay.
unlike I think for people who live in the DMV, like how expensive it is, or like in Dallas, how expensive it
Yeah.
is. Like suddenly in Minnesota, we were like, oh my God, we can afford things that we
Right.
couldn't, on a federal salary where it was like, wow, this dollar stretches a lot further here
I bet.
than it does. And so there was sort of I don't know, something like this could be a lot of fun. And,
Okay.
again, that sense of community and, doing what we want to do.
Right.
Do we want to have music? Do we want to put artwork on the wall? Like,
Right.
and I think it harkened back to, being in college or grad school and whatever crazy bars or bookstores or coffee houses where, no offense, Starbucks, but it wasn't like some sterile Starbucks where you were like,
Yes.
you wanted to go somewhere where you could walk in and just feel comfortable and feel at home and see
It's like
people.
these little sticky joints that like, and they stick with you the rest of the your
Yeah.
life, and the tables themselves are probably sticky.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what is your partner's first name?
Derek.
Derek. All right. So
Mhm.
Derek comes to you and says, "Hey, I got this thing," and it strikes a chord. I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
Okay.
was like,
Uh-huh.
all right. And so initially it was like still working full-time job and then being like, hey, like, how's it going on, finding a place? Have you
Okay.
talked with a realtor, and sort of trying to like, all right, let's really do this. And
Okay.
sure, you need some extra cash, like I'll partner, let's do this together. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and trying to do both things, it's like
Uh-huh.
not focused on work and doing the federal job, but also being like, I really I really want this thing to happen. I really would
Yeah.
like to have a place where we have all this fun and serve all this good beer.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm curious, just in general, was your partner always thinking franchise, or was there ever a thought of just do the business on our own? Yeah.
so I think he was initially thinking franchise.
Okay.
But we did have a discussion about like, well, how hard would it be if we wanted to do it on our own? I think now that we've been open a couple of years, there are moments where we're like, maybe we could done it on our own. I mean, there's definitely for something like this, having a franchise sort of kind of hand you this little package and say, here's
Right.
the checklist, here's the things.
Right.
I think with some of our like some of our friends and some folks we knew, um, you know, uh, at other bars or wine stores and talking with them, we probably could have figured it out and gotten there. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's
Okay.
like 6-1. I think hindsight's 2020 right now, where we're like, oh,
Right.
we totally could have figured this out. Um,
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Because I expected to me, it could have gone either way. I could have also heard you saying, like, no, once we realized the magnitude of what we had taken on, it was almost paramount that we had the framework of a franchise in the system. But that's not what I'm hearing from you. It's like, well, now that we know, we probably could have done it, but you don't know at the time, and probably having the safety net of a franchise system might help. My my question is, and probably some of the audience member question too, is it is it a relatively sure bet, like more than 50%, that if you enter in, and nothing's sure, but that if you enter into a franchise, you purchase a franchise as opposed to going at your own, if you follow the system of the franchise, you're likely to make money? Is that a fair statement, or how iffy is it?
I think when you talk about what we're doing in food service and restaurant, it's iffy. We're in our third year now, and we're starting to see some profit every month, which
Okay.
is nice. We
Yeah.
expected to lose money our first year. Um, I should say, side note, asterisk is my husband is a tax attorney. And
Mm,
so, when we were like running the numbers with him, um, and he was like, so you guys just know we're going to lose money the first year. And,
mm,
I'm always like glasses always half full. And
mm.
which I think was an annoyance to my husband before we opened because
Okay. He's probably the realist.
he is.
Yeah. Look, I'm more like your husband, and my wife is the perpetual optimist.
Yeah,
So good on you both. It helps
right.
out.
And so even though finding a good location and saying, oh, we're by a metro and there's a hotel down the street and there's condos and apartments across the street, office buildings down the road this way and that way, like that does not guarantee you that you're going to make money. And, and to me, Derek and I had both worked at there's another Casual Pint in Falls Church. And when that guy opened, Derek and I both worked there for a while just to see. And
Smart,
so
yeah.
it was like, okay, like we know how it goes. And to me, I was like, oh, so much of it is about marketing. Like if people know we're here and we're doing things the community wants to participate in and we make a welcoming environment, like if you build it, they will come.
Mm,
You
not so
gotta
much.
you gotta work at it. It's not
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
poof, here we are. And
right. Fair enough.
and
Yeah,
people are knocking down your door.
right,
So
right, right.
I think it depends on the franchise, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely in the restaurant industry because the margins are so tight. And like right now, with everything going on in the Gulf and gas prices and everything with immigration, and so what's going on in the food sector and with beef and poultry, like at some point companies start passing the cost on, and you start watching things go up in price and suddenly,
Disposable income is decreasing and beer budget's decreasing,
yeah, and
right?
definitely that Doge stuff, that was
Yeah.
horrible and terrifying. And Derek and I going, how bad is this gonna get? Because so many people around us who are feds or contractors, feds. Um, so it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, so take us back, if you would, to this exploratory time where Derek's coming to you. Uh, you're looking at it. Um, and there's an intermediate step. That's awesome that you and Derek decide to work at Falls Church. I mean, that's great. And then how long did you do that? And how long after that do you decide to pull the trigger? And tell us maybe how you communicated that in the federal environment too, because we'd love to hear the stories of what? Wait, you're doing
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so when I finally decided to leave, the government, there were a lot of things going on. Part of it was this, part of it was just family with like a teenager and a tweenager. I don't think our youngest was quite a teenager yet. And sort of going, I don't know, like I said, like if I'm gonna do it, why don't I do it now?
Yeah.
I love my job, but maybe it's not like totally jazzing me like it was. And we have these teenagers who, you know, maybe we should be there a little more for them and just what was going on in their lives. And 100% like my husband saying we can still pay like the mortgage if you want to leave and go do this. Like we can figure it out. We can do that.
Wow. What
And
a kind thing to say.
not
Kudos
everyone,
to your husband.
yeah, not everyone is in
Yeah.
that position, or
Yeah.
saying, okay, if one partner in this relationship wants to go do something different, like of course there were adjustments, but some
Right.
people that adjustment can be really big,
Yeah.
and really
But
have
you
to
felt, it
sharpen
sounds
the
like you felt
pencil.
like at some level he was releasing you to say, Jen, it's okay.
It's fine. Go do that. Like, stop trying to juggle both if you want to go do it. Because if you're unhappy, like, you can always go back to the federal government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so that
Awesome.
was
That's so
that
cool.
was a nice way. But in that interim, and and looking at it, I chuckled at it because where we were initially trying to open this, there were so many like storefronts available that it was kind of like, oh, this should be super easy. Like, who
Mm.
wouldn't want, something like this in their little downtown area that people can, walk to or drive to? It shouldn't be a problem. And I was talking with another guy who'd opened a restaurant in the town where we live. And he had been like a chef at a bunch of big places, in DC and running things there. And uh, we were talking because our kids both played hockey at Reston. And so I was like, oh, hey, like, how long did it take you to open your place? And he goes, oh, 5 years before we found a location that got it open. And I
Wow.
just laughed out loud because I'm like, dude, 5 years? Like, what are you talking about? You're this amazing chef. And like, how could it take so long? And I walked away from that again, ever the optimist, like pish posh, we'll be open in like a year and a half. Five, 5 years later, we finally opened. I mean, it was,
No way.
yeah. So that,
So I'm curious. I know some franchises kind of let you sort of select, and I'm using that word advisedly, select a location, but they still have to approve it, so to speak. Is that how it is with the Casual Pint, or can you open any location?
so, yeah, so some like, places like, big franchises like McDonald's and stuff, my understanding is they're like, here's your location, are very
Yeah,
much more in like, here's your spot.
descriptive. Yeah,
And the Casual Pint, their big thing was, how many miles away, because there was another one in Falls
fair enough.
Church.
Right.
We actually did have to negotiate that with them because
Okay.
initially, I think it was like a 7 mile radius. And we were kind of like, this is Northern Virginia. Like, no, 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 no. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to be that far away. And
Yeah.
I
There's a
think,
lot of demand. Yeah.
yeah. And I think part of that is just their franchise is like out of Knoxville. And, so like things are spread out more. And so I
Sure.
think being
Sure.
7 miles away was like, okay. And
Yeah.
here we were like, oh my God, like 7 miles away. I'm going to be like in Leesburg. Like,
You're in a
no.
different world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we negotiated that to get it to
Okay.
be a smaller radius, um, for our franchise. And
And sorry, refresh my memory. You said there are how many Casual Pints in Virginia?
three.
Where's the
So
third one?
Virginia Beach, that was the first one to
Oh,
open in
really?
Virginia,
Okay.
was in
Oh,
Virginia
interesting.
Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So 5 years later,
Yeah.
you found a
Like
site you think's it. Then
we,
what
yeah,
happens?
like it, it was negotiating on the lease here. We had looked at this location where we're currently at 2 or 3 times. Um, but like I said, I live in McLean, and we really
Okay.
wanted something in McLean. So
Okay.
we'd look at this and then we'd be like, I don't know, let's see. And like, wouldn't quite work out. And then we'd come back and look at this. And I think it was finally like third time's a charm when we came to look at this site again. And we were just like, this is,
This is the one.
this is the one. And we can use some outdoor seating, and it's a great location. And
So you've been there 3 years,
mhm.
and I don't want to get to opening just yet because
Yeah.
in my mind, you haven't left your federal gig.
No.
But this is what year did you open?
It was November of 23.
23. Okay. Wow, time flies. Okay, so now you're at a crossroads, it sounds like, because now you're still at your federal gig. How did you navigate all that?
At the point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go fully in on this and, you know, do other things that I wanted to do, be involved in the community more, that kind
Mm,
of stuff. Um, it was telling my bosses like, hey, like I'm leaving, but you know, saying, hey, I don't want to, I'm giving you guys a bigger heads up because I'd like to get someone in my seat, you know,
right,
and not leave and then start the, 90-day process to,
right.
get it
You didn't
out
want to
on
just leave them
USA
hanging, and
Jobs.
then
Yeah.
yeah,
And not have an acting, sitting there for however long. And, and then waiting like 2 months before like telling my team and other people. I sort of really wanted to work with my bosses to like get things in place. Like, let's get let's get the job thing written so it's ready to
right,
go out on USA Jobs. Let's, if my deputy has to be acting, it's for a short time. Let's get a permanent person named. either before I leave or not long after I leave to,
Yeah, sure. You're being a good employee.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right. Yeah.
let's not,
Nice.
I know how long
Let's
this
make this
takes,
smooth.
guys. Like, come on.
Right,
Um,
right. Okay, okay.
and so
So you
that,
gave them basically 10 years notice before you
yeah,
left.
yeah,
Yeah.
before I left. Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
And just
Okay.
trying to square get everything, like some things we were working on, try and make sure, those projects got completed. We were starting to, do like training and offer training to people. Like there were things that I was let's keep this going. Let's just not have it be where it's like, oh, I'm leaving in 30 days and good luck to all of you. I didn't want to leave it. It's sort of like, I know a lot of it was probably ego driven of like, I worked really hard to get these things in place and like, let's
They're like
not,
your babies. You don't want to let go of them that
you
easy. Oh,
know,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and make sure with, my team, we had worked really hard. You know how hard it is to get billets and to get, like I want to grow my team and I want to add people. Um,
Right.
and I had a group that was remote and or worked in Vermont as well. There was a small group up there and make sure,
Mm,
it was really just making sure um, that, if we needed to fight for more seats, that I was going to be like, all right, let's get this attorney hired before, I leave so they can't like pull the slot
yank
and
it
give
from
it
us.
to another give it to another
Totally.
division.
Totally.
Um,
Been there.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah, good for you.
a lot of set that ground,
Right, right.
and set the, groundwork with my family of timing when I was going to leave. Um, and I got some,
We haven't. No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I just wanted to say, I got some great advice from a friend of mine. She had been in the private sector and then, decided to leave and just kind of, stay at home and, and I
Yeah.
was like, hey, like, what was that like? And, how did you do it? And she
Yeah.
said, my one piece of advice is have a plan for when you leave. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of that played into my thinking about leaving. When was I going to leave? Because
Yeah.
she said, I was like, I'm done with this job. I quit. I'm out.
Okay.
And she said the first 6 months at home, she was like, I had no idea. Like, she was like, I didn't know what my days were going to be like. She was like, it was
Ah,
awful until
yeah.
she kind of got back into a
Right.
routine of,
Right.
and so that piece also drove a lot of the, okay, if I'm really going to do this, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's have a plan. Let's think about, that doesn't mean like Friday's my last day and Monday,
Yeah.
you're back, where it was like,
Right.
take the time, but like, go, okay,
And figure
here's
out what a new normal is going to be
right.
like.
Here's what I want to
Not
move
like a
to.
new nebulous.
Right.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that was key to sort of the, okay, I'm going to take the summer off. I'm going to, you know, take the kids on a road trip to go see grandparents and do
Mm,
things. And then kind of when they start school, then like I start doing
right.
like this
Right.
and let's get
Yeah.
on this and do it. So
Brilliant. So we've talked a little bit about your husband, and he was obviously supportive. Um, how did your kids initially react when you told them this? What did they think?
I think, I think after the fact, I think my husband told me this. He goes, I think they were just like, is mom going to be happier now? Because she seemed to be a little miserable these last few months. And I was like, okay.
Kids don't hold back.
They
If you're gonna
didn't.
get the real scoop, just ask the kiddos. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So my
Yeah.
husband told me that maybe like a year or two later. He was like, they just want you to
Okay.
be happy. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay. Oh, was
that's
it that bad?
sweet. That's sweet. Oh my
Um, I
goodness.
think they were excited. My youngest was starting travel hockey, and so I was that for any parent with a kid on a travel team, so many weekends are you're away with the kiddo, but to me it was just like great. You and I get to go on these little adventures and drive on the weekends and be in really cold hockey rinks all up and down. Um, so I think there was some. like I think there was definitely excitement about like, oh wow, like mom's going to be home like in the afternoon when I get home from school and
Yeah. Yeah.
just spending time with them.
3 years on, having being in the midst of it now,
Yeah.
is that mom availability still there as much as you anticipated? I also hear stories of being a business owner being all consuming
Yeah.
and and striking a totally different balancing act. How do you feel that balance is now?
I think it would have been harder if they were younger. I think um you know my kids are now, well, one's in college and one's about to graduate from high school. And so when we started this, they were like probably a freshman and like a senior in high school.
Okay.
And so like to them, they were excited. They were like, "Do we get to work at the Pint too?" And I
Oh
was
wow.
like,
Get
"Okay,
to, not have to.
yeah, get to."
That's awesome.
And I
Cool.
was like, "All right." Like so they, worked in the kitchen. And in fact, my youngest is like still, when he's home, comes and works in the kitchen
Wow.
and
Wow.
cooks. And the older one, not so much, but he will help out like running food and clearing tables when he's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
Huh.
it was good to like, they could be here with me on some days and doing
Mm,
doing stuff.
right, right. Is it safe to say you feel a greater sense of life satisfaction now than during the government days, or what's the comparison like?
I think it's like six of one, half a dozen of another.
Okay.
And that's really because like I loved my government work. I loved
Yeah,
doing what we did there.
sure.
It's a real like depending I don't want to say like depending what you do. I mean, being a government attorney is not necessarily your 9 to 5 job. And
Mm,
um that can be grinding on a family when and litigating and being a government litigator.
yeah,
Um moving up into some of the positions I had where I was traveling once a month, not as
yeah,
much as other people in the government or maybe in the private sector. But for a while there it was like, okay, like I'm just gone one full week a month. And like
yeah,
or late nights or vacations where the laptop was still going with me and being like,
yeah.
I just got to work on this one thing.
Right,
um
right.
and there were some vacations where I heard that of like, we're supposed to be on vacation, mom, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
so that was a grind.
Right. Yeah.
But you know I think it's now that we're 3 years in, like having more flexibility on how I set up my days so I
Mm,
can, be there or go do stuff with them or travel with them.
okay. A lot more flexibility.
More flexibility,
Yeah,
and it's more
yeah.
fun, you know, it's more fun. It's still
Yeah,
a grind and it
sure,
still
sure.
takes up a lot, but it's always fun, when we open to see regulars come in or new people come
Mm,
in and to be able to
right.
talk with them about what we do. And
Yeah,
seeing the interaction with the staff here.
right.
And we've been fortunate of really good people working here, some
Mhm.
who have been with us since the day we opened,
Okay.
and
Okay.
people who want to stick with it. And I think that's, or stick with us. And I think that's anywhere, like in the government, when you build a really good team and you trust them and they have trust in you, that like go like taking a vacation and not in the
Hmm.
government, not having to worry
Right.
everything, or signing a case and knowing that person is competent and can handle it and do all the
Sure.
things.
Yeah,
um
the people around you are everything. They
yeah,
just really are.
yeah.
They really are. So now you're building a team of good people at at the Casual Pint. Haven't quite gotten to opening day yet. By the way, because folks that are again looking at venturing out, they might be dealing with, well, do I have the money to do this? It doesn't sound like you're a bank loan. It sounded like you had a bit of a nest egg to put into this. Is that fair to say?
It's called my TSP. Got put into this.
Heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How
Yeah.
difficult a decision was that?
So we talked a lot about like knowing, having an idea of, hey, how much is it going to cost to do a build out? And again, this is where, um, even for government people, like in your job, you have to work with so many different people. And, that if you're thinking about going out on your own, you have questions. There are people out there or friends of friends that you can say, well, I'm thinking about doing this, but I don't know. And somebody will be like, I know someone who does that. So
Mm,
as we were talking about this, there were friends that, one who works in like real estate that we were able to say, and, reviews, another friend who does like, you know, uh, contracts for different from what I did. She does, private sector and commercial contracts, and sort of saying, so it was able to sort of start talking with people. So when we
okay.
talked about how much it would be, we kind of had pretty good swags of like, how much is this going to cost?
Right.
Rent will be this, a build out will be that. And so we looked at the numbers, and again, tax attorney husband saying, well, if you get a loan, this is how much it's going to be, you know, the whole, how do we want to set it up as a C Corp, as an S Corp? We went back and forth on that. Do we set it up as a limited liability? No, we do not want to do that,
So that's really interesting, because just prior to this, I had not done a lot of looking into C corps and S corps. I did a little bit just in preparation for this. I also was under the assumption that maybe the franchise itself, or maybe the parent company itself in Tennessee, said, no, you will be this. But it sounds like they allowed you to choose. And so how did you land on a C corp? Why not an S corp, for example?
So the C Corp was based on, because we were not taking out any loans and we were using all of our money in it, that um, that we set it up as a C because of that. And it was weird because it was, talking with my husband, having to go back to like my law school days of like, yeah, I
Mm.
remember taking corporations. That was one of my favorite classes, but I really
Oh,
don't do that
interesting.
anymore. Like what?
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so a lot of it was just how we were financially setting up the company. And he was like, C Corp is the way we want to go. And part of that was in order, I think it was in order to get the money out of TSP and like put it into that. Like it had to be a C Corp to like
oh,
plop,
interesting.
plop all the money in there.
Interesting. Okay. And did that also rule out an LLC, or were there other reasons to not do an LLC?
I think there were more just like liability and sort of, hey, if this all goes like, I was thinking of what I was going to say, and I'm not going to say that on here. But if this,
Going south?
yeah,
If
if
it
this
went
all
south?
goes south,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's the corporation that's going to take the hit, tax
Right,
wise, or if we get sued or anything like that, where it's going to be the corporation, it's not going to fall back to
right.
like personal liability on Derek or I for this. So
Sure, sure.
so there was some
Okay.
thought that went into
Yeah,
like setting
it's
it up as a
important.
C Corp.
So, you've got a location chosen, you've given notice at work, you've got sort of a gentle glide slope, it sounds like, at work, because you're just the good employee you are. Build out. Now, is build out starting to happen while you're
No, build
at,
like I had
yeah.
left the government a couple years before that. And so build out was happening after I'd left the government.
Okay, so what is, I mean, to me, look, even in setting up a podcast, you're like, that's a podcast. How hard can it be? And
Yeah.
look, it's not rocket science. I'll give you that. But there's a lot more than folks might expect. And I got my own templates. I'm just saying, I got my own templates. Um, but there's a lot of checklists that you're probably going through in your mind, what are the big moving parts that you're like trying to get into place before those doors open for the first time?
I think a lot of it was like it was really the build out, like keeping this on track because you kind of have this like honor about this date, we'll start a soft open and then we'll do like a
Okay.
grand opening. So it was trying to keep that date, which that date did, get kind of pushed by like a month. And a
Mm,
lot of that was, I don't know how many folks are gonna, when you're gonna do some sort of bricks and mortar thing, and especially again, in, restaurant or service, the inspector has to come in and sign off on everything.
yes,
So,
yes.
um, and you don't know what you know. In DC government, I did do some construction litigation, so I was like, yeah, I get it. Gantt chart, timeline, inspector.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Uh,
Okay.
but like, no, I did not know a lot about that. And so
Yeah.
when you've hired people to be like, okay, like hiring a project manager to be like, keep this project managed, um,
Yeah.
and just keeping it on track, and X, Y, and Z have to be done before you can call the inspector. And this
Okay.
inspector has to come before this inspector, and then this inspector. And the fire inspector is like the last person, I think. But trying to get
Okay.
all those ducks in a row. And
Right.
because we sell alcohol, I can't get the license until that's all signed off and the fire inspector. And then I get my occupancy permit. And then I can go get my alcohol license and all these things.
So you've got literally a Gantt chart with dependencies set up here.
Yeah. And
Chicken here, egg here, new
mhm,
chicken here. All
yeah.
right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
how many days it takes to get, and it's just, and you're kind of watching the state slide, and I'm trying to be like, it cannot slide any further. Um,
How did you get did you literally just find somebody as a PM, or is this part of like the construction contractor? Was it a construction contractor PM or somebody totally
yeah.
separate?
No, it was a construction PM, and this is
Um,
again like your world and your 6 degrees of separation. It wasn't, it happened to be like it was a good friend of ours. And I was
oh
just
wow.
like, I know our project is so teeny tiny compared to what you do. I was like, but like, if not you, do you know someone who would be willing to do it? And, he was like, oh, I have some time on my schedule. Like, yeah, like our company can do this and I'd be happy to do it. And it was just like, oh my God, okay. Um,
Wow.
and that was fantastic because I mean, again, you hire people for their expertise and they know what they're doing. And it was kind of like, okay, boop, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just kept that moving. But I think
Yeah.
no one should ever not think that you don't know someone or one of your friends doesn't know someone who can't help
Mm,
you or answer questions. And I think that
mm,
that was a big piece of doing this
mm-hmm.
was,
Mm-hmm.
we had friends or friends who knew people who could help us on the gaps where it was like, well, I don't know. I think this is how we get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And was it hard in the general, you're Fairfax County, is that right?
yeah. Yep.
Um, easy enough with the Fairfax government to stand up a restaurant, or other than all the permitting, was there any resistance at all?
No, no resistance. And I mean, permits just take a while and they cost money.
Yes, right,
Always
right.
was like another check. I need to write another check.
Yeah.
Um, but really, I think again, something you learn in the government is like, okay, now I'm going to use a bad word. Like, don't be the asshole in the room. Like, just come in and be like, hey, this is what we'd like to do. How do we facilitate this? How do we make this happen? Here's what I know. What don't I know that I need to know?
Yeah.
And 'cause we would hear horror stories when we were building out, and you know, um, about things that would go wrong, or, some of our like neighbors here, who might be frustrated with, oh, the county doing this and jerk that and rah. And it was, part of me is kind of like, well, were you behaving like this to those people? Because
Were you being a decent human being and communicating with these folks? Just curious.
just curious, were
Yeah.
you
Okay.
saying
Yeah.
hello or good morning and being
Sure.
just, you can be unhappy with what they're saying, but like, just
Right.
don't be a
Right.
jerk.
Sure. Sure. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So you're you're going through all this. I mean, there's two sides. There's the physical build out, but then there's just the less tangible stuff. You've got a menu, a website.
yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got the people side, hiring. How did take us through some of those? How finding good people, like you said, I mean, that's everything.
Yeah.
But like, which did you do first? When did you start getting to like website menus and staff hiring and all that stuff?
So I think that's where, the question about, hey, working with the franchise, where, the franchise was like, hey, like, you know, we'll set up the website and this is
Gotcha.
the template for it. And so there were some things there that we were like, okay, like, good. I mean, that the information that goes on there, I think what we've discovered is, we push and I ask very nicely, hey, can we have this photo and not that photo? I know you like that
Mm,
photo, but like we like this photo and this is why. And so there were things on there that we could update in the way we wanted. The menu, when you have a franchise, they'll probably be like, here is the set menu. And
mm-hmm.
again, we kind of pushed and asked about, oh, well, this is really popular here, and we want to add some different things to the menu based on, what people here we
Sure.
think will like to eat.
Yeah.
So,
And can you add a few custom things that
oh
are
yeah, yeah,
outside the standard? You
yeah,
can. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
And I think that kept in with the franchise philosophy of like it's meant to be cater to what do folks like locally.
Nice.
Sort of here's the set piece, and then here's the piece that you can kind of take and
Right. Okay.
design. I mean, hiring people was, the biggest piece. And again, with the franchise of sort of like a timeline of, okay, as you're going through, during the build out, focus on the build out, make sure all
Yeah.
that's going along. And then kind of like 30 days out, let's start advertising to hire people, especially in the service industry. If you hire someone, they're like, okay, I start tomorrow because,
Yeah, right. I was wondering about that. Like
it,
they're banking on a
Mhm.
semi-uncertain thing.
Yeah. And not, kind of like, our jobs where there is a glide path. Like I'm leaving this one job and then I'm going to go
Right.
to this job. They're like, I start tomorrow. And we're like, well, soft opens in 2 weeks. So, and you got to come in for training. And, um, yeah, we had some bumps with hiring people that looked good on paper and then got in here and we were like, maybe not it. Um, and then we lucked out with some really great people, folks who, what one of our beer tenders, he installed our tap system
Oh, nice.
and
Did a good
working
job.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Looks great.
And then
Yeah.
he asked us like, are you guys hiring? You guys seem cool to work for. And we're like, heck yeah, like come work for us.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. How are you advertising, by the way, for staff?
it was one of the big, like,
One of the
big
big job
ones.
boards,
Yeah,
Indeed
out there.
or
Yeah. Oh, it
Glassdoor.
was. I think it was Indeed.
Was it Indeed?
I think it
Okay.
was Indeed. And
Okay.
so we put it out there and,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of responses.
Yeah.
But some of it was just, again, I think, part luck and part how you put yourself out there in the world. So,
Right.
the guy who
Right.
installed that, um, the guy who did our training to get our food service license, he worked at another bar in Falls Church and was like, again, you guys seem cool. Are you hiring? And we're like,
Oh, wow.
okay. Uh,
So I was kind of curious about that when you said they had to come in from training. Does the franchise help at all with training, or is
yeah.
this something you had to put together custom? Okay.
No, they had a set training explaining about craft beers and then
Okay.
about different types of beer, a lager, a
Right.
pilsner, an IPA, what makes
Okay.
them different. Because, it's not like, oh, did you want a Bud Light, a Corona, Dos Equis,
Yeah.
uh,
And
you're
do you serve standard stuff too? Like, can you get a Guinness? I mean, can you get
we
a?
did this past St. Patrick's Day, we did like have Guinness on tap.
Oh, did you really? Okay, but
We
not a
did
regular appearance. Okay.
not
Yeah,
a
yeah.
regular appearance.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And we
And
do
people are
have
not coming to you for the standard stuff anyway, I'm sure. So,
right.
yeah.
And then we do have
Yeah.
PBR tall boys because people
Oh,
would
do you
come
really?
in. Yeah. Some people would come in
Okay.
and be like, do you have like a Corona? And we're like, no,
Uh,
but we have this other really good light beer that you might like.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
and the PBRs just started kind of as a joke,
Oh,
where
that's so
I
funny.
where I told Derek, I was like, why don't we just get PBRs in here and sell them like in the
That is,
can? And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, it'd be funny.
That is kind of funny. Like, and
Yeah.
maybe Natty, are you saying Natty Bo is next? Is that what I'm hearing?
Some
Natty?
people, when they saw the PBRs, we did
Uh-huh.
have a couple of guys who went to school in Pennsylvania who were like, is Natty Bo next? And we're like, oh,
Uh-huh.
it's you
No,
guys.
we've got to draw the line somewhere,
I was like,
you know.
you know, I was like,
Yeah,
then we'll
no,
be bringing in Miller High Life. And then what is going
I
to
know,
happen next?
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness. All
yeah.
right. So have we missed anything before opening day?
No, it was a lot to get there, a lot of
Crazy
time,
time. And
just,
by the way, like this dream had to be brewing, sorry,
again, you're
during
just going to
COVID.
all the time.
I'm just gonna keep going with that brewing thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But it had to be still with you during COVID, and then
Yeah.
COVID did that give you any pause at any point? Or you're like, nah, we're moving ahead.
So at that time when COVID hit, I had like just left the government. Derek and I were working at the other location.
Wow.
And
Okay.
like when that happened, we were all like, oh my God, what
Yeah, so it
are we
was in
going
the
to do?
midst of your planning. Okay.
Yeah, where we were
Yeah.
still looking for space. We did question, like, do we go forward with this? Like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Right.
Um, but the county in Virginia like changed up some things so you could sell like beer to go, which did not happen. You couldn't do that. You couldn't like order online and be like, great,
Right.
and can you pour me a crowler of beer to go, or I'll take this
Right.
6-pack to go. And
Sure.
now COVID allowed that, and that's stayed.
Yeah.
So
You can
that,
still do that today, by the way.
yeah,
Okay, I didn't realize
yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah.
So there's some goodness that came from
There
COVID.
was some goodness that came out of it.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot more people working from home,
Mm,
and so yeah, there are some, people who will, come over here and get lunch and sit at a table or sit at the bar and do some work. And or people, working from home. So I think sort of those things kind of helped, like, oh, okay,
we
where
might have lost X, Y, and Z, but there are other
yeah,
things coming that are new,
yeah,
new pieces of hope, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
Tell us about opening day.
So that was crazy. We had hired a company to help us do some marketing to get the word out.
Okay.
And fantastic. But I mean, we had people lined up like all the way to the door, and
Really?
like 4 lines deep at the bar of
Wow.
people. And it was literally all hands on deck, where every single person, we had hired. um I can't remember. Probably my youngest son would have been here helping out. My husband was here helping out. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was just like it was crazy. It was crazy. The
Do you
number
remember
of people.
what day of the week it was? What time?
It probably would have been like a Friday, probably. I can't remember if it was a
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday. It was like a Wednesday or a Friday.
Okay.
Um, we did a thing in the afternoon where around noontime where we had like um the Providence district supervisor come, um, the supervisor from my district in Drainsville, even though we
Mm,
weren't in Drainsville, but I was like, well, I'm one of your residents, so why don't you
mm,
come support me? So we did like
mm.
the political like picture thing and shaking
Oh, that's cool.
hands. Um, and then we had a thing in the afternoon for all the vendors, and so all the folks who did the build out, like, kind of they came in and we did a thing to thank them. And then it was kind of really late in the afternoon where we were like, okay, now the public can come in. Like, let's do all
Okay.
the photos and glad handing and personal thank you, in the afternoon for 2 or 3 hours, and then opened up. And, I think by like 6 p.m., it was just packed, and it stayed that way until 11 o'clock. And,
Wow.
um, but I think like all new businesses and definitely in the restaurant industry, that first month you're like, it's going to be amazing. And then eventually it kind of falls off and levels out.
Okay.
Um, and because we opened in November, in the restaurant industry, January and February are always the worst months, slowest months. It's winter, the malaise of getting through the holidays. Nobody wants to go out anymore. So we open, and then, you hit the typical restaurant like down cycle. And
Right.
so I think that first year was just spent like in a panic. Should we have really done this? Oh
Right.
no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And and when did hope reemerge?
I think hope reemerged like over oh, actually hope reemerged oddly, but it shouldn't have been, was March, just a couple months in. Uh,
Oh, wow.
March
Okay.
Madness.
Yeah.
But it was also the year of like who is it? Caitlin from Iowa. I'm gonna mess
Oh,
up
the
her.
basketball player.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna mess up her last name.
I know
But
who you're
she
talking about.
she was in it, and
Yeah.
USC and LSU,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this place would just get packed for those games. I mean, the men's
Right.
games were okay, but those women's games, it was
Yeah.
like standing room, only in
Wow.
here. And
Yeah.
so we were like, like this is great, and we're right on the cusp of spring.
Yeah.
Um, and then we'd kind of hit another dip and plateau. And I think
Right. Right. Right.
it took a real year to sort of embrace that, doing something like the service sector is up and down. And I mean, it's the same doing
Yeah.
podcasts or doing consulting. And you
It
really
just
have
is what
to,
it is.
yeah, you have to embrace it and
Yeah.
then say, okay, like, how are we going to build it? And I
Right.
think the second year was a lot of reflection on, okay, we toyed with a lot of things our first year. Let's throw this
Yeah.
out there. Does this
Okay.
stick? Let's throw this
Okay.
out there. Does that
Okay.
stick? And then really
What
taking
was
this.
what was one of your biggest ideas that stuck? No, let's start maybe with the negative, and so we can end on the positive.
Yeah.
What's something you tried that absolutely did not work, and then something you're like, I'm proud of that. We put that out there and it took off.
Yeah. I think um, so we like to do little puns on things, and Derek had come up with a thing called like arts and crafts, like come in on a Sunday, like a really slow day, and
Mm.
like, do, because we had some folks here who like to draw or paint, and we had some folks who asked about, hey, could we come by on like a Sunday night with our like guitars and do a jam session?
Oh, wow.
And we were like, yeah, great. Arts and crafts on Sunday.
Yeah.
Nope, like never.
Nobody showed up.
Some people would, but
Oh,
never really took off where we were like, we'll be that cool community spot on a Sunday. And,
hmm. Okay.
where come and paint, come and draw. We get great morning sunlight in here. Bring
Yeah.
your guitar and come grab some friends, jam in the corner.
Right. Right.
And that just did not take off at all.
And it doesn't seem like a bad idea, I gotta say. I mean, I
No.
could see my wife and kids being like, "Yeah, we'll go chill."
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Okay. Okay.
that thing just didn't take off at
Huh.
all.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And what's anything that stuck where you're like, yeah, this is kind of like our trademark now, or anything like that?
So I think there were two things. One was during our second year where we really reflected on who do we want to be and what do we know we want to be community, and we just need to get like a tempo down so people know
Yeah.
this night is
Okay.
this thing. Um, and so that worked of like Tuesdays is this, Wednesdays is this, Tuesdays Jeopardy Bar League, Wednesday is trivia, Thursdays karaoke.
Mm.
And some of that came from also the bar staff saying, hey, karaoke is always a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and we were like, okay. But initially the bar staff were like, but not every week. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Huh.
But then after like 2 or 3 months, the bar staff were like, no, we're cool if it's every week. Like, do
Oh,
that. And we were
interesting.
like, okay. The
Huh.
second thing that really took off was just, you know, into that second year. And I think just our constant, hey, we're supporting community, and, that we had some regulars say, hey, I have a silent book club. Can we come in here and meet? And I was
Mm.
like, okay. And working with them to find a day, which is Mondays, where we're like, it's quiet, it's not our busiest day. So like 20 people show up for silent book club on a Monday night.
Wow. What is a silent book club? I have not
So
heard of that.
bring whatever book you want.
Yeah.
You socialize for like 20 or 30 minutes, and then
Yeah.
everyone sits there very quietly and reads their book or Kindle for about an hour. And
No
then
way.
you socialize again at the end. Everyone's like, oh, what are you reading? Or, oh, I haven't seen you in a month. What have you been up to?
That is the coolest thing. I have never heard of that.
Yeah.
That is like an introvert's dream who's like, I don't want to be isolated and lonely. I want people, but I want to be with people, but not with people. That's just great.
So that, and then we just had another regular reach out about doing like a gaming night where she wants to, it's going to be Rummy Cube, where there's,
Okay.
like people gather and she teaches you how to play and then you all play. And she
Yeah.
was like, I
Yeah.
just need space. But again,
Yeah.
we were like, okay, we're going to start that in a couple of weeks. But aside from the regularly scheduled stuff and then
Right.
music, that, we have live music a couple of times a
Right.
month. It's just really, I think when the community knew we were here and we were supporting them,
Yeah.
and then the people who've come and said, have you thought about this? Would you mind if we do that? Could we host this thing here?
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, if we can make it work, let's do it. And
That's so
so
cool.
those things have been the things that reap the rewards, because
Right.
people will go tell other people.
That is so
And
neat. So
so,
you're starting to get organic community-based
yeah,
growth even.
yeah.
Um, and I sense your personality coming through too, and sort of like we need to get a rhythm and stride. And I didn't mention templates, but there have to be some tools, some things you're using in the background, technology, anything like that. What are you using to just manage in the background? What are you working on late at night when you've got to tally up the tabs? How are you taking orders? Is there anything that's helping you stay efficient and not reinvent the wheel, so to
Yeah. So again, a little different in my wheelhouse, going from attorney to this and the tools that we use. I mean, we do use QuickBooks. I have an accountant who helps out with that. So she has QuickBooks, and I've access to that so I can see what's going on. in the restaurant industry. We do use Toast as our point of sale system. So they're
Toast, it's called.
Toast, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Probably a lot of restaurants you go to use it.
Okay.
Um, it's good. It's great that it can do a lot of things. So I don't have to
Yeah.
grab 10 different, we run our payroll out of that. Um, on like the business side, being able to see daily sales, see breakdowns, running reports at the end of every month on what were
Okay.
my top food sellers. Um, they're starting to integrate AI tools into it, so I can look at things, look at sales, or look at what people are, each individual beer tender, and be able to click in and see, well, what accounted for, why did sales increase, this day over the other with this same person, or items that get voided or discounted, where I'll be like, whoa, why were there so many discounts yesterday? And,
Yeah.
the AI tool being able to go in and break it down and show us that. Um,
And does that
for
integrate directly with QuickBooks at all?
that doesn't,
Okay.
which is fine because
Yeah.
QuickBooks is really just do my accounting for me, and I can watch throughout the month. And then when I get, my monthly report, of breakdown of, my P&L, my profit and loss, and what's going on,
Hmm.
I can look at that. And if I see something, then I can go into Toast and be like, I want to see, and look at detail on
Right.
what was going on with sales or cost of goods. Why did we go up this month? And
Right.
for scheduling, we use an app called Home Base,
Okay.
which is very easy to do the schedule. But then for this, for our team, our staff, they can go in and be like, hey, I can't work Tuesday night. Like, so they can sort of take care of that without constantly having to come back through me.
Right.
It'll bing like so and so have traded shifts so I can see, but that's a lot easier. Um,
Right. Okay.
and probably um, one of the more fun things that we have is a system called Bar Track.
Hmm.
Um, it, you know, so it monitors on the kegs on the keg wall here
Mm.
of,
Hmm.
what's on tap and then how much is left in there. So we can sort of monitor, um, hey, we need to, when we need to order things. And that
Hmm.
can also, we can run reports to see what was most popular, or, what
Yeah.
was least popular. Um, and
Interesting.
so those are our main ones. Nothing sexy like Westlaw or Lexus, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, but they're fascinating in their own right, and just that they're helping you stay efficient. And honestly, probably contributing to customer satisfaction because the more efficient you are, the less annoyed customers are, right? Like they're just
yeah,
there to enjoy
yeah.
themselves and have fun and enjoy the food.
Oh,
So
there was
so
there was
how,
one more.
yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead,
one more.
please.
One more
Yeah,
called
go ahead.
Tap List. It sits like over uh so on our website, so it can, so when I go to update menus or do events, um and that's the biggest thing, is like managing the money and the people and doing all this, okay, but it really is, that social media piece and keeping up on all that. And,
Wow.
with so many different pieces and with AI and technology of the, hey, what's the one app that can sit across everything? And I just go to
Mm,
one place to update and it like pushes it out across everything.
wow. And what is the it that's called tap list? What is the it that tap list is pushing out?
So that is like one-stop shopping for me to update the events. So the events get pushed out on our website, um, and just tiny things that, you know, like the repeat function, thank God. So I don't have to like
Yeah.
go in every week on our weekly events and type it in. I mean, it's small
Oh, so
things
interesting.
that add up.
So because in my mind I hear tap list and I'm thinking, oh, this is specific to um to beer,
Yeah.
to a brewery or a pub, but it's really it's event management and social media advertising, it sounds like. Am I right?
That's a piece of it. Also,
Yeah.
we're able, Derek goes in and updates what's on tap. And so again, that pushes out across all of the platforms that we
Okay.
use. So
Yeah.
it really did start with like what's on tap. And
Right,
then
right.
it has evolved over time to bring in menu and bring in events. So
Right,
it's
right.
kind of a nice one-stop shopping that instead of, oh, I go to the website and I do this, and I go over
Right.
here and I update that, and I go to a third spot to update the food. Like
Sure,
we can do
sure.
it all in one place.
Right, right, right. Jen, I wonder, just bring it back to the Toast conversation. I know I had asked about Toast actually integrating directly with QuickBooks, which it might not, which, there's a lot of workarounds in technology these days, but there are a lot of folks probably wondering, just brass tacks, how, you got a lot of dollars and cents going into Toast. How are you getting the data to the accountant? Uh, why an accountant as opposed to doing it yourself? Did you find the accountant on your own through Indeed? Walk us through that a little bit
Yeah.
if you would.
Yeah, so I think part of that goes back to when we're talking about like, hey, if you're going to do something like this or something that is a franchise model versus going out and doing it on your own. So with the franchise model, there were some things that, some things baked in, like the training piece of bringing people in for training, setting up the kitchen. There were other things that, we do have a bookkeeper, an account, and that was someone that was recommended by the franchise because this woman works with some of the other Casual Pint franchises. So she understands the business
Hmm.
and then the different systems we use like Toast and, paying the taxes and filing things. So for her, we give her access to Toast. We set up the permissions so she can just go in and look at stuff so she can pull the sales data out on net
Right.
and gross and, discounts, how much discounts for the month. Same with like the bank account information. So she can go in and see what are we spending on, the food, cost of good on foods and
Okay.
the beer that we buy. And then, she provides us a monthly report. Like I said, that breaks down our P&L. Um, we do payroll out of Toast, so I run a report for her from payroll
Mm,
and send that to her so she can account for the payroll and all of the taxes.
okay.
But it's definitely something because it's a tool like QuickBooks that you're like, "Oh, okay, I can do QuickBooks. I have,
Yeah.
you might use it in your own household for your budgeting
Sure.
purposes. Um, and it's something that in this last year, at the end of last year, where Derek and I, where I was saying, I don't know, like maybe I just take over doing
Mm,
that piece.
hmm.
Um, but talking with my husband, the tax attorney guy, he's just like, what's like the cost of that, the value? Like,
Right.
is it worth you to spend the time and do it? Or is it
Right.
easier to pay her every month? Because, you know, to her, it's second nature of like, that's what she does. So
Right.
she's pulling the data, dropping it in QuickBooks, running the reports for us. I can go in and look if I have questions about stuff, but
Right.
what's the value of your time? I
True.
think in whatever business you do for us, the outsourcing is more valuable, because we have staff and we have payroll versus maybe someone who's, solo. Um, and doing stuff like podcasting or you know running a business where they're the only employee, they're designing stuff, they're outsourcing the making of it, and
Right.
so whatever that is. But I think those things are other pieces to consider um, when you're going to open, and definitely
No,
like
absolutely.
taxes and who's paying your taxes, and
I mean,
making
that's a big
sure it's
one.
filed. Yeah.
That's a big one. And
Yeah.
as the owner, you have a unique macro view as well, and strategically thinking in terms of how can I grow the business that the accountant's probably not going to have. And every minute you spend on accounting is a minute that the business isn't necessarily being cared for at a strategic level. And,
Yeah.
to your husband's point, that's an important consideration.
Yeah. It was the same with, social media stuff. We've hired people on occasion to help us with social media, um, both the doing of it and the strategizing of it. It always goes back to, are you getting the bang for your buck? Uh,
Absolutely.
you know,
Now, are the social media folks, how are they helping you specifically? How did you find them? Because that's a real, I would say, blind spot for a lot of folks venturing out these days. Like, I want my business to be front and center on social media. I have no idea how to do it. I don't even know how to find the kind of person that will boost my social media profile. How do you do that?
so there were two pieces of it for us. One, we did have a social media like consultant working with us for about a year, and we found them through another small business. We sell Tyson's Creamery ice cream here.
Okay.
And I was asking her, because she's also small business, saying, hey, who do you use for your social media? I've seen some of the posts.
Mm,
She gave me the name of the company, Sugar Strategist. And so
mm,
we used them for about a year. So it was very helpful
yeah.
as we were getting going, because the folks who run that also came out of the food industry. So understanding the tempo and what's the information you want to put out there.
Right.
Um, so they were really helpful when we were trying to get our arms around this.
Okay.
The second piece was being part of a franchise. They also have, in-house marketing people who help put together, um, the promotional campaigns, or when we do limited time food specials, can help with that,
Mm,
and put things together that the other owners can use. So Derek and I are not always having to come up with like, what do we want the graphic to be and what do we want it to look like?
yeah.
Um, but so that's been a jumping board for us to take things and then, play with it ourselves on the positioning of whatever the food or the beer picture on it and what we want to use
Right.
on there. But
Right. Right.
it's ever evolving is the thing. So it's also talking a lot to the staff of like,
So
what are you
true.
guys looking at today?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's amazing, even in listening before about karaoke. It's like, by the way, we're cool with it if it happens a week now, every week. It's like they're the ones truly, I just have another pun. They're the ones truly tapped in.
Ah,
I apologize. I even apologize to the audience. I'm so sorry, folks, for the puns.
nice.
I really didn't anticipate, but they really are plugged in
They
to
are plugged
what's
in.
going on,
They
and
are
that makes
plugged in.
sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, Gosh, I've got a zillion ways to kind of go on my head. And we probably need to find a glide slope to concluding here too, which is this is such good stuff. I'm trying to think, like, in in the time that you have been in operation, what, for somebody who's looking at, toying with maybe even buying a franchise, or like, okay, here's somebody who's actually done a franchise thing. Um, they've actually said that maybe they could go it alone, could have gone it alone and been okay. What's say one of your biggest first, do you think pretty much everybody can do this, is wired to do it? Does it take a special personality type to do it, or can most folks make this happen?
I think for this in restaurant and service, it's so forward facing, and you know you have to deal with you have to deal with people, and
Yeah.
I think there's definitely you kind of, in dealing with people, there's a lot of having to give grace on things and sort of like hear people
Yes.
out and not be so um not be so like black and white, like, or jumping to a conclusion. And I think just being
Sure.
open to listening to people and talking with people, because there are hard conversations we've had to have, with some staff and with some customers. And when you're dealing in an industry that's solely based on like customer satisfaction in an open environment, you're not trying to deal with a customer one-on-one like in an office or a client.
Right.
um, that not everyone you not everyone I don't want to say like not everyone is cut out for it, but it's just, it can be a real drain, you know.
Sure.
And the government, if you ever had to do training or go to we would have like a new attorney training that would run like for a full week. And when you're doing training, you're training and then you're like on all week. You're meeting new attorneys, you're meeting with peers who are working somewhere else in the country, and so you're on. And by the end
Hmm.
of that week, like flying home, you're just like, I just want to sleep. Like I am
Yeah.
exhausted. And that, when you're like doing something like this, you are constantly on. Um,
Right. Right. Do,
and
do you
so
do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
it's kind of like both. I mean,
Okay.
I
Okay.
love being around people and like,
Yeah.
hey, and like, let's, glass half full all the time and let's go do this.
Yeah.
And then there are definitely times where I'm like, I just like, everyone needs to go away. I need to close the door. I need to be alone, like
Yeah.
recharge the batteries.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Yeah.
so probably more of an extrovert, but when I get in
Okay.
introvert mode, I'm definitely like, I'm binging the show on Netflix. Everyone needs to go away and like be quiet. And that's always
Yeah.
when my family wants to come sit next to me on the couch and be like, so what's going on in this show? Oh, I like this show. Oh, who's that actor? And I'm like, go away.
Of course it
Yeah.
is. Of course it is. Absolutely. Um, well, I've got like only more two or three questions. We're getting to the end of this too, and thank you so much for being with us. It's just been like it's awesome to just
I think
hear
I've talked
the
too
ride.
much, but thank you.
Not at all. Um, not nearly at all. The what's your biggest lesson learned? You look back and you're like, if I had to do this all over again, I would have XYZ.
Um, there, there's probably two things. I'm not sure. Like the first thing I would say is there were a couple of spots we looked at that I think, with Derek and with my husband, where they were very iffy. And um I wanted to put my foot down more and be like, no, like
Mm,
this is a negotiation. Let's see how far we can get. And
hmm.
so maybe I would have put my foot down a little more. But like I can't change, like I can't change that. And
Sure.
so I think there's some like having agency, where you're like, should I have maybe like
Yeah.
pitched more of a
Yeah.
fit? I think the biggest thing is the letting go of things,
Mm,
of being I don't have to do all of it all the time. Um, and I think over these past couple of months, I've been like, okay, like I need to, I literally was still working in the kitchen 5 or 6 days a week and then doing
wow.
like all this stuff. And some of that was out of necessity, with, trying to find the right people and again, hiring with everything going on with ICE and immigration. And it's just been a struggle. Um, but also a like, no, 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 I've got this. I can do it. And
Yeah.
realizing like when you're building up your team in the government, where at some point you have to be like, okay, guys, like you do this now.
You've got this.
You've
Yeah.
got this. And I think there was a hesitation because if you don't got this, like it affects my bottom line.
Sure.
And like, at times my team coming to me here and saying, it's fine. Like, we've got this. Like, we get
That's
it.
cool.
And so that sort of over the last probably 6 to 8 months of, okay, I've got to let go a little bit so I can, to continue to grow the business and be
Sure.
successful. Like, I think I've laid the groundwork on what our expectations are, what we're trying to do here, what we intend to be, how we treat customers. Um, and then when you see the staff saying that to the new staff of, oh, this is how Jen and Derek, this is how we run it here, this is how we do it. Hey,
Mm,
here's how we deal with this person. Like, when you see that then happening, then you're like, okay, I can like step
yeah,
back.
that's nice. That's nice. If there were a Fed who's like hits you up, comes into the Casual Pint, it's like, oh, you're a former Fed. I'm considering going out on my own, start my own business. What's one thing you would advise them in terms of thinking it through?
I would say talk with as many people, get a diverse um, viewpoints in so you can weigh them, because someone will come in and say something that you'll be like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then in the silence, you stop and think about it and you're like, huh, I never thought about that. I mean,
Mm,
those moments still happen now, but I think
hmm.
before you go make the big leap, get just talk with people about, here's the idea, or here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Um, and definitely talk to the people that you are like, this person's just going to poo poo it. Maybe they will poo poo
yeah,
it. Maybe they'll be all supportive. But I think
yeah,
getting that input, because, like you and I said, like, you're more like my husband, the realist, and there would be things he would say, and I'd be like, no, no, don't be ridiculous. And
yeah.
then the next day I'd be like, all right, I thought about it. You might have a point, you know.
Nice. And I have to say, we that part of my personality we call Eeyore, like the donkey,
Oh
right? And
no.
oh no, it's all horrible. But at the same time, if Eeyore had predominated, there's a lot of amazing stuff. Jessica, she's not here right now, but I have to admit, there's a lot of joyous stuff we would have missed out on. And so, yeah, don't let the Eeyores of the world keep you down.
No, but do ask them a few questions, because
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
have input that's helpful.
It helps you think through some of the real world stuff. So just maybe a fun question to close us out here. Has Frank been to visit you?
Not yet. No.
Not
You know,
yet. We got to
I
get
ha-
Frank there.
I hate to tell you, like, a few years after we left, the Pig and Fiddle closed up, and
Oh
so I'm not quite
no.
sure where Frank ended. Uh,
Really?
yeah, the group that owned that
Oh,
owned another bar in St. Paul, and I think they were focusing on that. But it like
really,
crushed my
really.
heart, because I think
Oh,
my son was going out to Minnesota for hockey, and I was like, "Oh, you got to go to this place." And I'm looking it up, and it's
yeah.
like permanently closed, and I'm like, "No."
Oh no. Well,
Yeah.
what about any Minnesota beers on tap these days, or do they rotate through?
They do. We haven't had a Minnesota one on tap. We did have
Okay.
one in cans. Um,
Huh.
they are, I'm not sure. I know, like, Derek does the beer ordering.
Okay.
I have given him some beers to look for, and we tell people in here, like, if there's something you want us to find, like, let us know, and we'll have Derek try and find it. It is
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
sometimes just with distribution agreements, which is another thing you learn about. Um, that there are some really great beers out there that either just don't distribute because they're not big enough, or don't distribute here yet. But there's
Interesting. What is your signature beer right now that you feel like is the most possible, the most popular?
Oh, the most popular we have a beer on tap called the Casual Pint Lager. Um,
Oh,
it
nice.
is made Susquehanna Brewing. It is their house lager, and
Okay.
they let us call it the Casual Pint Lager. And
Ah, very
so
cool.
that is, and I think just because it's a lager and it's very good and very easy drinking. It's on our Tap 4, which a couple of times during the year we do a thing called Tap for Good, and
Okay.
we raise money for various local charities. We just did one for the Vienna Volunteer Fire Department. Next month, we'll do New Dominion Women's Club, which is a club I
Okay.
belong to. They raise money for local beneficiaries. June, we've always done it for Smile to support LGBTQ youth and young adults. So we do it like throughout the year, groups or folks who come in here and are like, hey, I'm part of this nonprofit. And
Right.
we look at them and figure out, like, is that something, we want to do? But
That is so cool.
yeah,
That is so cool. Well, folks, this is Jennifer Longmeyer-Wood of the Casual Pint in Dunn Loring, which is also a metro stop.
a metro stop.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that makes it the real deal, easy to get to without driving. And hey, it's pretty hard to get in trouble, if you don't have to drive. That's the whole thing. You just let the metro do the driving for you. In Dunn Loring, Jennifer, where can folks find you on the web, social media, and all that good stuff?
Okay, so you can check us out on Instagram at Casual Pint Dunn Loring, all one word. Our webpage is dunnloring.thecasualpint.com. And so on there, you can see our menu and the events coming up. Instagram, we post a couple of times a week. Fridays, I usually do a little video called a pup date because we have a lot of dog owners here. So we try and include a pup in my little pup
Oh,
date
nice.
about what beers we have. And you can find us at 2676 Avenir Place, Unit F. In Vienna is our mailing address, but right at the Dunn Loring Metro stop. And you can't miss us. The big open courtyard in front, we're right there.
Okay. That is awesome. Well, I will have to remember when I'm next in your area to look y'all up as well. And Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us here on the Fed Renaissance podcast. We wish you the very best. And I know you got a busy day opening there closer to 3 p.m. So
Yeah.
thank you again for spending the time with us. And we wish you all the best.
Thanks, Brandon. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. Take care. Hey, thanks for being with us today on Fed Renaissance. And remember, don't like or subscribe, at least not until you've checked out episode 2.